make it over.
Yep.
Welcome to the unconference session. How do we reach beyond our community of accessibility professionals to communicate more broadly? Let's get this party started. Let's go around and introduce ourselves. My name is Sean Loris. I work at Austin Community College here in Austin, Texas, and I'm the accessibility technician. I work with, I produce all the Braille and accessible materials for our students with disabilities. Let's go around the live room, then we'll go around the virtual room.
Hi, my name is Aramita Nakchodhary. I go by Mita and I work for USAA, and I'm an accessibility advisor there. I've been there for about 2.5 years. And hi. Yeah, so I've been in the policy advocacy space for accessibility. I'm getting into the document accessibility space, but overall, I've been here in the accessibility space for like 9 years.
And the USAA is what?
USAA is United State Automobile. It's the insurance company for financial military families. Yeah.
There's me. I'm David Wysocki, and let's see if I'm kicking in. Yeah, almost got my name, a little bit obscene. Yeah, I'm with a company that we have, my wife Pina, and I have with quite a network of professionals that work for us and doing accessibility consulting. A focus of my work within Aquam Access is the company, is doing community-based work, which is what draws me to this, the title or the theme for this session, because it's what we are doing, especially in smaller communities. People want to do something about accessibility, and especially I'm from Canada, especially where the provinces are, including Ontario, that have regulations that say you are supposed to be accessible. With a lot of reg information and laws. But smaller communities, they tend to be very kind of welcoming, opening, want to help, but really don't know a lot about accessibility, and they're challenged with the fact that we're talking about older infrastructure. So naturally we have mobility issues, but the older infrastructure can cause a lot of other problems. So we're always working with other folks to help bring them into the conversation and the work. And did I take up the rest of the whole time? No. Okay.
Hi, my name is Lourdes. I am an accessibility analyst at the Texas Comptroller of Public Accounts. And I got into accessibility because I actually use assistive technology myself, so I depend on things being accessible to be able to use technology and access information. So I know how valuable it can be to the quality of life of someone who has a disability. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the discussion.
I'm gonna pass this over here and move my laptop back here and take it off of blur so they can see us same time. Let's see.
Your center stage.
There we go. That's everybody. All right. Let's take pass it on to our virtual member or attendee, Mark. Can he unmute?
Hello. All right.
There, he unmuted.
Yeah,
Oh, but we can't
I'm
hear him.
Mark Thorson, from,
Hey, Mark,
hey.
we can't hear you. I'm not sure if we're able to unmute you.
Oh,
I might be able to hear him on my computer. There he is.
all right. Can you hear me now?
I am. Yes, we can hear you.
All right. I'm Mark Thorson, from Aberdeen, South Dakota. I am accessibility team lead at Nelnet. So I think you've all seen Dave D and several others. So he's an associate and a coworker of mine. So we have a nice program going here. I'm grateful to have worked with so many associates with accessibility in mind. I started my career over 2 decades ago as a kind of a front end developer and kind of kicked off our program. So like many other organizations, kind of had to point out that we needed to get something started, and I'm thankful we've evolved considerably since then. You're going to do kind of a diversified business and as well, and not just in-house accessibility. So I've learned a lot of things. I also made mistakes like everybody else, and that's why we like to hear all the different opinions and things. So I'm looking forward to how you guys interact. Different organizations, sizes, different types of organizations. We all have to kind of react and respond in a different way. So really looking forward to the discussion.
Well, welcome to the discussion. I'm gonna have to mute you myself when we're talking or we get an echo. So maybe raise your hand before you speak so I can unmute and we can hear you.
Yep. And I'll mute myself unless I'm talking.
I'm sorry?
I'll mute too.
We don't get, just I get an echo through my mic.
Yeah.
So if we want to hear you, it has to come through my computer, so I have to, when you're not talking, I have to mute my computer.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, so our topic is how do we move beyond the community of accessibility professionals to communicate more broadly? And this is exactly where my organization is at right now, because we have it's a 70,000 student community college with 12 campuses around the Austin area. And we have a very robust accessibility division, but we are caught up implementing accommodations for the students with disabilities who are in classes, and there's not a lot of bandwidth beyond the support we give to them. And that's what all of our services are designed for. And outside of our division, there's no expertise for accessibility. We don't have it in procurement. We don't have anybody in IT. There's no one doing web accessibility testing. So we're pushing right now to increase those numbers, to get the ear of our chancellor, because we're going through a big reorg right now. And as long as we're changing everything, we might as well, inject as much accessibility as possible into all those changes. So we're kind of taking a multi-pronged approach and trying to push for stronger policies through shared governance, and trying to get training for all the design teams that are doing the reorganization, trying to get some training for our developers who are doing our web redesign, and trying to improve our training for faculty, and because our training is not robust enough either. So there's a lot of changes we're trying to make. But I think one of the things started doing in my own head is reframing accessibility in kind of along the lines of that recent PBS documentary, Change Not Charity, or was it Charity Not Charity Change? It was something like that. There was a disability documentary. But it, yeah, I think. Yeah. But just personally, I've kind of had a shift where, you know, it's not about accommodations, and it's not about having people with disabilities at the table because they're excluded. It's about making our program stronger. It's about when we have students with disabilities in classes, those classes are richer. They're the students in those classes have, like, when our teams have individuals with accessibility on them, we can solve more problems. We have a better breadth of accessibility of experience and perspective. So it's not about let them in, it's about they make us better. So I think that's a really just a more honest way to push accessibility. You know, it's not about pity. It's not about it's not even about civil rights. It's about making our products, making our teams, making our companies better and stronger. So anyone? Oh, we have a new person.
Sorry, what are we doing? Just introducing ourselves?
You're saying what you think about him.
No.
Introducing.
Did you know the question, right? It's how do we reach beyond our community of accessibility professionals and communicate more broadly?
Yeah, well, I wish I had the answer.
But introduce yourself and where you work and kind of
Sure.
where you're like where you're at now with that question.
Yeah, okay, all right. My name is Natalie MacLeese. I'm the founder of a company called Aardvark. We're building an accessibility testing tool for websites. And where I am with this question is something that I kind of grapple with every day, trying to figure out how to break out of the kind of bubble of accessibility professionals that I'm in and get the word out, I think, to the broader community. So I'm a web developer. That's been what I've been doing for over a quarter of a century. and I do feel like there's a real lack of knowledge about accessibility in the web development community. And I think there's just a lot of web developers who just don't know. And unfortunately, accessibility is either not included at all in web development curricula, or it's like one little unit partway through. And that is communicating the message to them that that's not important or it's not part of the job. And it's not their fault. But I think we have to get the word out to them, since they're the people actually building things, that this is part of the job and it is something that you need to know. And it is challenging to get into that community. And like, I've been in it for a long time and I still have a hard time. Because I do feel like when you go to like a general web development conference with a talk on accessibility, or you want to talk about accessibility, people are kind of like, oh yeah, that's something we should be doing, but we're not. And that's kind of where it ends. So I would like to like explore ways of making that feel more important and more like the critical part of doing the job that it actually is, instead of this thing that maybe we do if there's extra time.
Mhm. One of the ways I feel is the most successful in promoting accessibility and making it have an impact on people at our college is stories, is the stories of our students. Trying to have panels whenever I can, because it's when people hear a story, it makes it personal and they can relate to that. When you're just talking about a screen reader accessible document, that just doesn't touch an emotional chord with anybody. But when you have a student talking about how they had to drop a course because none of the documents were openable and they couldn't answer the questions on the test because the LMS wasn't accessible, and it created a barrier that they, and often our students think it's them, I'm just not cut out for this level of study, and that's where it just, that's where we're failing, because it's our failure and not theirs. And it's the law, So one thing I almost raised my hand in that last at the end of the talk, that last question. My girlfriend is having trouble accessing her course online. What do I do? You document it. You got to document it. You got to you have to make sure that data is recorded, or the next person will be the first one, So every time there's a barrier, it has to, we have to make more robust and easier ways to document grievance and accessibility barriers. My colleague Meg, just walking around this campus, saw the QR codes for have you run into a barrier, and she took a picture and sent it out to our whole team, and she was like, wow, this makes it seem like this college has values accessibility, and they want to know when you hit a barrier. So just simple things like that really can move the needle.
I don't want to hug the microphone. Does anyone else want to talk?
Mhm.
Oh, I was gonna do the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Say something, but, okay. David back here, and I want to say I have a little better hairline than it looks like in the, or I don't, and I'm fooling myself when I look in the mirror. Yeah, I'm listening to this. I tend to try to really listen closely and then kind of collect patterns in my mind and summarize, and then see how they fit together for kind of focused or focused objectives, right? So, certainly I chime in with what folks are saying in the world I'm in certain ways, and other ways I'm hearing, like, Sean, you're living in a horror story. So, God bless you with trying to get stuff going there. So yeah, from our perspective, we've used kind of the donkey, the carrot and stick approach, right? So there are some things that line up on the stick approach, and no abuse to real donkeys. And some things that line up on the carrot side, right? So, so on the stick side, yeah, we have the laws and regulations. I used to joke whenever, like in your situation or whatever, can you spell ADA, right? So, but there are, potentially serious consequences for doing this. And I think that's the stick part. But I think if people really get the sense of that, and there are tons of examples of places that are being sued every day under this lack of, because of barriers, right? The ADA. In Ontario, we have kind of the longest standing accessibility act. It's AODA. So it's accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, right? And the stick part was supposed to really kick in this year. Everything was supposed to be accessible, even though that's ridiculous. But they just kept dropping the ball. It's not enforced through lawsuits, right? It's supposed, it is kind of, it's not enforced. It's the bottom line. And to varying degrees, we have different models, but if you have a stick, inform people of the stick, while you also give them the carrot. So I'm going to just use one stick, one carrot right now, because people probably have their other versions of those. So the carrot that we're able to use, because a stick actually in Ontario now, we're pushing, and then come 2025, people are going, nothing happened to me. I didn't wake up and, our organization caved in, nothing happened. So the carrot part that we have used, and especially in the area that we had moved to and we're working a lot, Prince Edward County. It is a big tourist area, lots of craft breweries. Yep, I think I know them all. A lot of vineyards, lots of arts, all kinds of arts. Including performance arts, some beautiful, natural areas. It's in Lake Ontario, the island is. So lots of cool things there. Plus the culture is of a smaller town, kind of, including agricultural kind of a town, where people look out for each other. It's more welcoming. So we had this first, and we're doing another one right now in that area for performing arts. But the first one was to get business champions behind accessibility. And we had recently, about a year and a half ago, we got some Stats Canada, like official statistics, right? And I'm not even sure why they stopped at age 15, but age 15 and above, I think I can imagine some of the reasons. So age 15 and above, it's 27% people with reported disabilities, right? So we're not even counting all the folks that don't want to say anything, plus all the old folks, I don't know any personally, that we're not disabled, right? So 27%. So we're talking a lot of tourist-based organizations, right? 27%. So it's a good chance that person with a disability has at least one significant other in their life. So it could be a parent, a significant other, it could be, a brother or sister, right? Whomever. So we could say double that. And we're not exaggerating. So now we're up to 57%, right? Would you like to increase the number of people going on your website to book a cottage or a room or whatever, or come to your restaurant or your craft brewery by 57% potential? And these numbers, actually, people really they got excited, right? And this is not a highly competitive. It's competitive in terms of getting attention, but it's a area where competitors work together on things, right? So that's been a very successful carrot so far in our situation. So all I can say is carrots and sticks. You've got all kinds of sticks. You need to talk to my wife. Like, we just got done doing a major consultation with, in fact, we're not done yet, with
I
the
could build a
university
fence.
and covering all the, it's like, yeah, we need to help you. No, I don't mean the company, but
Mhm.
So, okay, did I take up the rest of the time? No. But I think I did cut you off. You were going to. No.
It's okay. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I'm the remote.
Oh, okay.
Did you want to add something?
I think
We can share this too.
Oh.
You guys-
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with everything, and like I concur and like preaching. Yeah, I think right now there's a lot of like spaces where accessibility is more compliance driven rather than culture driven. And it's like, it's in a, like, I'm always like thinking about like, how do we get to that space where we move into where it's like a lifestyle, like it's like a functioning part of the lifestyle of like an organization. Um, it's, um, like I'm from like a smaller town and one of the things that it's a retired community mainly, and a lot of the community, we kind of emphasize things like digital literacy in that community, and trying to find ways to provide opportunities for digital literacy. So a friend of mine and I, we worked with like the local library there, and kind of started like a program where we teach, like anybody can come ask any tech question they want.
Awesome.
And it's kind of like, I was thinking about that, like on a grassroots level, kind of like how do we reach out and, talk to people that, want to do this kind of work, but like don't have like an avenue. So like we've gone to like farmers markets, pride festivals, like STEM festivals. So
And
it's
you
like,
just set up like a tech booth?
yeah, basically.
It's cool.
And and like people have questions. Like at the farmers market, somebody was selling jam and they didn't have like a electronic way to kind of to pay. Yes, correct. And so basically we were like, oh, do you have Venmo? Do you have a Venmo account? A lot of people pay for things via Venmo, or like, do you want to like get like a Square system where people, can give their credit card and stuff like that? And they were like, yeah, we just didn't know about all of this stuff. So it's kind of like, I think about that on like an organizational level, like when it comes to like implementing accessibility, it's like you almost have to like go into like the grassroots of it and like reach out to the community in a way, like just
Like be
kind of like
visible and set
plant
up,
yourself
set up a
somewhere. Yeah,
table.
yeah. Just kind of set up a table and talk and just talk.
Mhm.
And people will listen, I think.
The accessibility professional is in. Like peanuts. Let me see if I can. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Mark?
Well, I think I agree with pretty much what everybody's saying. We struggle with the same kinds of things, even at Nelnet. We're a very diversified company, so certain areas may be super strong in compliance and have really mature accessibility processes, and other areas are smaller, they're kind of an offshoot part of our business, and they're just getting started, and they don't know
How
what
big is your company?
we have several thousand employees. So we're a publicly traded company, so it's large. So I think to me it's large. I've been at three different companies in my lifetime, and this is the largest one. So we're pretty big and diverse. But we have challenges too, and I know something you brought up earlier was strengthening policies and maybe even communities of practice within the organization. Those have worked to varying degrees here as well. And it's something that's always ongoing. It's a challenge because you can't just say, okay, this year I'm gonna, enforce a policy and send it out and all the associates are gonna read it. Well, they might, and then you might get some momentum for a little while, but you really have to keep it going. And I think that's the struggle. And we have turnover like everybody else. Sometimes you lose your biggest accessibility champions in a certain area, and you're back to square one. And that's always a challenge too. You gotta start over. You gotta realize this is just part of our process. We have to build that up again, and can't expect it to be perfect the whole way through. So I think those are things that I've enjoyed hearing your interactions. It's certainly very similar and different scales to what we deal with here. I'm trying to think. Another thing that came to mind too is talking to different people. You have to know what your audience or what your business leader truly values, what interests them, things that have worked maybe better for us in some areas where it was hard to get entrance into accessibility have been, like you said, talking about the impact on real people and just stressing that, most people don't inherently want to not be accessible, but they just don't understand why it's so valuable and who it impacts. One of the benefits of me working on the team is, well, they see this is Mark. He's got a mobility impairment, and he uses speech recognition and eye gaze, and a lot of our associates, they've never seen that before. But if they talk to me, well, that instantly sinks in, So those kinds of stories, like you said, I think are huge, and we really need to emphasize that over and over and over again. It can't stop from, so it's got to be a strategic thing in our whole process, and we have to dedicate time to do that. And also, I started out as the one-man band, and that doesn't work very well either. So I will say, you want to get by and get help, expand if you can, as much as you can, whatever your organization allows, and find supporters or folks that can do it on a part-time basis to help. So it's more than a one-person job. You have to have a organizational mindset, and everybody's got to contribute. So that's kind of what I think about things, and I struggle with finding new ideas too. We talk about how do we get folks to come to our meetings that aren't interested. We get the flyer, so we're preaching to the flyer all the time. All of our champions show up, but nobody new shows up. So how do we get them in? And those are things I'd love to get your ideas on.
Thank you for that. We were just talking. Thank you for that. We were just talking at lunch. Well, I'm still echoing. Come on. Is that better? There, that's better. We were just talking about lunch about dreaming bigger when your company says, what's your ideal team? Like double it. Sometimes we don't dream big enough, and we don't ask for enough, and we need to ask for more. And when we get a chance to what's your dream team? Ask for the world. You probably won't get it. So why ask for just what you need? Because then you're not going to get that. So triple it, quadruple it. And then, when you get half of what you ask for, you might have enough to thrive. So, there was there was a lot of good points you had. Mhm.
It's our new prime minister, if I may. Sorry, interject some people like Trump and so,
In a Canadian polite way.
yes, if I may, yeah. So that's just a phrase that now I'm saying all the time. So I think something you were saying, Mark, really clicks in. And again, I think we're like touching some like absolutely fundamental concepts here, and they're going to get applied differently for each of our settings, but the fundamental concepts are there, right? And I think one of the things you were talking about, Mark, was I'm going to now have to use my own words for it, but so correct me. So, getting to understand or know the people, understand where they're coming from, what their needs are, or whatever, getting to know them, right? Who's your objective here? Get to know that objective. And, in our example, we moved from the Greater Toronto area, working in the first suburb going east in Pickering, working hard and actually doing a couple of bang up projects, always interacting with the council members and, but always feel like we're busting our butts and only making a little bit of headway, right? So we and we work internationally, and Tina more internationally than I do. So now we moved to this area. It's like, wow, we're going to make inroads much more easily because of the culture, and you do. But you got to find out how it's different, right? And I told myself going in, it's like being on the Accessibility Advisory Committee for Pickering. I almost don't want to bring it up because I could almost feel people say, yeah, well, you're not in Pickering anymore, buddy. Nobody said that, but here's the difference. So we have this culture in this one area, Prince Edward County, including a couple of other areas near that. We're recovering this area directly, plus all kinds of places in Canada, right? Not just in Ontario. But here, so we have this bend over backwards, not leave nobody behind, and it's real. But then I found out that a new barrier to trying to work and bring them in to the accessibility fold is that there's a pride behind that, right? They're proud of the fact that they don't leave anybody behind. So don't tell me how to do it. So here's this thing, accessibility. Here's a way you don't have to leave anybody behind. We're on that. But you're not. Right. So it's an ever, growing experience. But it ties right, what you were saying, Mark, it ties right in with my background as an occupational therapist, which I love employing as an OT, but especially in accessibility now. And that is really do get to know, right? In my case with clients, with the community, with brain injury and different things, everybody has an immediate stakeholder base, right? Could be parents, could be a friend, could be whatever. And then you find out, first of all, you find out what the goals, what matters to those individuals. Again, I think you apply this to the community, right? As well, if you're working or in your place, then you find out who are their stakeholders. And stop me if I'm being too mundane here. You find out who their stakeholders are and what the roles of those stakeholders are. And there could be one or two stakeholders that really have that person's ear or, and so then it gives you another place to find those avenues. And if you're tying it together with your approach, you're tying it together for the client or the person or the organization, right? Because they already have this support system, right? So, and you're tying it in with them. And if you do it kind of slick, right? They're not seeing that you're picking things apart, they're just automatically, we're connecting, all right? So for whatever it's worth, I just wanted to say, yes, Mark. That was my way of saying it very briefly.
Yeah, I like looking for those, we call them leverage points, where you can affect more change with the same amount of effort. Like anytime I hear the word template, I'm like, my ears perk up, and I'm like, I will jump in and talk about templates and make them more accessible, so they turn into more accessible documents as they go out. And anytime there's big changes, when we're web redesign, when they're designing the new website, jump in there. And when there's myths and misconceptions, like you got to jump in and start those conversations that can set the record straight. We have a lot of screen reader users, and people just don't understand that click by click directions aren't easily translated into how do I do that with my screen reader. And they just don't have a concept of how different it is to use a screen reader, and they don't realize that the gear icon up in the right corner, the screen reader needs to know not where it is, they need to know what it is and what it's called. And it's not the gear, and it's not an icon. It could be a button, it could be a link in the code, and that's what the screen reader is going to tell them. And if we don't have directions that for those screen reader users, they might not be able to get from here to there, and they don't know it's not them. It's another one of those situations where they might think they're not skilled enough with their screen reader, or they're just missing something. When it's us that, they need directions for the tools they have that we're not providing. And so it's not equitable, it's not accessible, and that's really not intuitive. Like, even accessibility people at our college don't understand that we need to give directions that are screen reader specific, and not just JAWS specific. They got to be NVDA specific or voiceover specific, because those tools don't translate back and forth. Just because the shortcut in JAWS doesn't mean the shortcut in another screen reader. So one of the ideas that we're trying to develop is peer mentorship, because we have some sharp students who are experts at their technology, and they have learned how to navigate the college system and their courses. They know the tools that work for them, and they're the best people to help our students who are new to their disability, new to their technology, or new to college, whatever, and who need some support. Because I know how to create a JAWS accessible document, but doesn't translate into knowing how to navigate that document with JAWS. So I don't always have those skills because I don't use JAWS every day. But it's a good idea to find a way to tie that into your everyday, any skill you want, like ChatGPT or AI. You have to find a way to sneak it into your everyday life. Find some way to trick yourself into using it, or some use. You have to find a way to weave it in, or you're not going to learn it. So that's.
Sometimes I like to, because I'm a big foodie. So I like to look at restaurant menus, and I like to identify which ones are PDFs and, and yeah, so like I just like try one thing I try to do is like use my phone and turn talk back on and like see if I can go through the menu with a screen reader. Yeah, this is something I do. Just because like it's like I'm blending like what I do for like my day to day and like something like I enjoy doing like as a hobby. I don't know. I guess
Create an
yeah.
accessible one,
Yeah.
sell it to.
Yeah. Yeah, like I was like thinking about like I was like, should I start like emailing them? It's like, or like maybe I should just create like the accessible menu and then like be like, hey, I notice you guys are using an inaccessible image PDF for like your restaurant menu. Here's a plain text version. It's like, if you're interested, you can put it on your website. Like, I don't know if like I don't know what is the best approach. It's like because like that would be a lot of work to like to do reach out to like every restaurant. So it would be cool to have like a team doing that. But no, I was just I wanted to share that I do that.
It'd
Like
be like a good, like a good community project
Yeah.
or a good, just raising awareness in your community or even a business that, we have your menu at, accessiblemenus.com. If you want to link to it on your website and increase the number of people who can use your menu, then it only costs $12 a month. Or for free.
also, sorry. So I think you mentioned something about like the way instructions and stuff are communicated and like how like a lot of the things it's like very click heavy, mouse heavy, and or like just like not comprehensible. There's like like over usage of acronyms and stuff like that. Like in the financial space, because I work in the financial space, there was this big push for using, we were working with like a third party, and the third party was trying to use like CVV as like the credit card, like the code thing. And it's like, well, what exactly is CVV like if you don't like have that background of like it's not like maybe it's not as intuitive. Like it's like I know I have to enter my credit card and stuff like that. It's like, but what is CVV, right? Like why can't it just say something more plain language like security code or something like that? So yeah. 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 So it's like context. Oh my gosh, sorry. I was fidgeting with this. And then it breaks. But like I was just like thinking about like how can we make things like more plain language, more universal. I think did you say you're part of Aardvark? Yeah, I think I saw something where you you guys wrote like the WCAG requirement in
Yeah.
plain language.
Yeah.
I really appreciated that. Like I was reading about it when you guys released it. I was just like, this is great. This is how we can kind of universally communicate with like design, content, like all sorts of people, like and kind of meet them where they are. So yeah.
Bam.
Yes.
You-
That was our intention.
That's effective.
So, I mean, definitely not meant to be used by accessibility professionals who are still going to have to get into all the technical details that are in the official WCAG documentation, but for a designer or even for a developer or a UX person who's coming to accessibility for the first time,
Or an administrator
that
or.
documentation is so intimidating and so technical. And so to just have this simple, like, well, here's a few things you could do to meet this without all of the possibilities and without like all of the super technical language. That was our intention with that. Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of this stuff it seems intuitive in hindsight. Once you know it, you're like,
Yes.
yeah, of course. But until you know it, it's not intuitive at all. And I think you have to give people that, whoops,
What did your computer go to
I think
sleep?
my computer might have died. You're still up there.
But I noticed, yeah, one of the camera feeds disappeared from the,
Yeah, I should,
did your battery run?
I think my
out?
battery
Yeah.
ran out. Yep. I do have a charger. I'll hook it up in a second.
Okay.
Yeah, so, we have to give people that, you know, a little forgiveness and a little, grace. And so they don't feel terrible when that moment of realization, when they look back and like, I should have known that, but no, you couldn't have known that until, but now you know.
Yeah, now you know. Yeah,
And I think that's the same, we were talking about intentions, and I don't, you know, people don't want to exclude people. They just, you know, it's just hasn't touched their world yet. They just haven't, they haven't met someone with a disability, or, you know, that happens with almost all of our instructors who have a student with a disability in their classes. They almost all of them become like advocates and champions, and because it becomes human and people, and not just this, you know, not just an accessible PDF that they have to create for a regulation.
So something that started telling people, especially when we're doing training, bring up the no, you know, big circle with a slash through it, and it's going through judgment. No judgment. We're not judging anybody here, right? So us as the accessibility professionals, you as each other, you know, we're on open ground here together. And that includes, I mean, that's awesome that you did that, you know, you know, I've kind of taken the approach, and I don't have all the answers, believe me, I don't think that you're supporting me. I don't want to make it seem like that because I'm talking so much. Using, you know, oh, I know what it is. I'm like, stop talking to colleagues. Maybe. And I've done this a lot with my wife because she's, you know, like she's phenomenal and works all over the world with this stuff. And then when we're doing something local, it's kind of like, how, okay, you're missing the point here, Pina. You're talking over their heads, you're talking with colleagues, you're using acronyms, right? Because she's so engaged in it. So I just came up with this thing telling you to stop talking to colleagues, you know, talk to whomever they are, friends, you know, so that everything you say is done in plain language. And it's not done to be plain language because we're trying to do this to make sure we're including people, certain cognitive issues, which we do need to do, obviously. But let's do it with each other, right? Because then it makes sense, right? You know, you can see when somebody's eyes glaze over, if you can see them when you're talking to them. So that's kind of one of my missions, is get rid of the eye glazing over information, right? And it's something I've only been doing a lot. Like this is, you know, I'm looking at something comes from one of our contractors, and I said, people's eyes are going to glaze over before they get to the first two words, right? We've got to use more plain language approach. Yeah, I just make things simple, direct, to the point. So whatever, sorry. That's Canadian.
See if my computer's working yet. Come on.
smart choice. That's a smart choice.
Yeah, not really. There's a 2007, wow.
Come on.
Yeah, it's.
It always takes forever once the battery has died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can still hear us though, can't you, Mark?
Yeah, yep, sounds good.
We can't hear you though.
Okay.
But we can see your captions.
All right, that's good.
That reminds me of like a meeting I was having with my colleague. This situation reminds me of when I was having a meeting with one of my colleagues, and I think something happened to my mic, like something happened to my microphone or something. It just made it was like the captions were working, like my dialogue was going, but like I couldn't hear like my colleague, but I could see the captions,
Mhm.
and I was like, okay, I think I can respond to everything he's saying.
It's a temporary disability. Really. That's how I sold all of our, adding alt text to your images and emails.
Mhm.
You know, everybody's had an email that came up and the pictures didn't load. And then when you have alt text in there, you see the alt text instead of the image, and you know, reach those people that lost their bandwidth or are on a secure network, and they're blocking the images from being loaded. So, yeah. So, yeah, we can read your captions if you want to. If you had anything else to add, we can even think about getting out early if we want. It's our prerogative.
guess I'll speak a little bit. since
Mhm.
I've been quiet. I am the room host, but I like what I've heard so far, especially the increasing visibility by connecting, and actually using St. Edward's idea of like barriers as a way to to connect and open that door to, oh, you're facing a barrier, and sort of using that as a connection to
Make it easy.
exactly, because I mean people have empathy. It just
Mhm.
if they don't, but they don't know what they don't know. So that was a great idea, and just increasing awareness and in the community. I love what you're doing, like help being there in the farmers market. That sounds like a really fun thing to do to help. I loved. Um, I've given classes to people with cognitive disabilities or people who survive strokes, and just helping them, learning how to use the accessibility features on their iPads was like, oh, I can still use my iPad. It's like, oh, I can see the text now. Those things like that it's showing them that something that was meant for people with visual impairments can help people, who are aging and maybe losing their visual acuity. Yeah. So just making that connection and increasing awareness sounds like a great way to just reach outside of the accessibility professional circle and create connection and create awareness and just make it cultural. Yeah, and not just compliance. So I like that. I really like that. Thank you.
Yeah, if you would all agree, I think something that might be interesting, something I've kind of gotten obsessed with in the last couple of weeks. Just on a whim, I had posted on social media a question asking people, like, what's your accessibility origin story? Because nobody went to college and majored in digital accessibility, right?
Yeah.
So how did you end up here? And the stories have been so interesting. And I think it's actually relevant to this topic because I think it could give us ideas of like, how did we all stumble into it? And like, is that something that we could replicate? So I would love to hear everyone's accessibility origin stories. Sure, I can go first. So mine is in the year 2000. I got hired at Penn State University to build websites for the chemistry courses. So obviously that was before LMSs and everything existed. But so Penn State was very forward thinking in the year 2000 and had these static HTML sites where the professors could give me their notes to be posted to the students and the study guides for the exams, et cetera, things like that. And I was about 2 or 3 months into the job and thinking, I'm so good at this. I'm doing such a good job. And the Disability Services Office called me one day and said, hey, there's students who can't use the website you're building. And I had no idea what they were talking about. Like, what do you mean they can't use it? Like, do they not have a computer? Like, what's the problem? And they were very generous, and the university provided all kinds of training for me. And I stayed at that job for several years, and then I've carried that with me. I was shocked to leave that job and go into, just a web development job at a company, and nobody was thinking about accessibility at all. So it just became something that I carried with me through the rest of my career. But that's how I got here. It's just a phone call from the Disability Services Office one day. So anyway, I'd love to hear everybody else's stories.
Like, so I already mentioned, but something that's not very visible is that actually I'm legally blind. So I've been using assistive technology since I was 14. And access and having technology, like, for example, my first iPad, I was able to have my textbooks big because they were they were provided as PDFs, and I actually cried because I used to have to carry. Not only did I carry big textbooks, sometimes I had to carry magnified photocopies of them, or something that still exists that's called a CCTV. It's a closed circuit TV, but it has like a camera mounted underneath the TV, and you put your book underneath, and that way you can like increase it on the TV. And that was at least 20 pounds.
Even the portable ones are heavy.
So and I still have it to this day, and I still use it for cookbooks because it's like my favorite, also foodie. So, and I mean, if it wasn't for accessibility, I would not have been able to continue my education, for starters, and that opened the door to many adventures. Like, I've been able to travel all over the world by myself, which my family still is shocked and scared. Like, I was able to take public transportation in Paris, France, even though I don't speak the language. The same in Japan, which was a huge language barrier. Not a lot of people spoke English, and not a lot of people like you speaking English in France. So thankfully I do speak Spanish, so that did help. But I was able to do all these things thanks to technology and it being accessible. Like, I was able to do a lot of research on transportation, of places where I needed to go, how to get there. And I mean, it allowed me to stay in school, because that was also, because for me, it was all of a sudden, I became legally blind. I was 14, I was in high school. And, a lot of the math was very inaccessible.
Yeah.
But I got really lucky. I had great teachers, and eventually I started getting assistive technology because I didn't know what I didn't know also. But yeah, that's how I got into accessibility. It's because I myself have been someone who's benefited in a huge way in terms of like independence and quality of life. So that's why I tell people that accessibility can be, I mean, it can be the difference between a good quality of life and not, because barriers can exclude you from so many things, and it can make it feel like you're not really human. Like, you can't have the full human experience that other people can have. But that's why accessibility is so important, because it allows us to access those opportunities to communicate, to connect, to travel, to cook, So yeah, that's how I got into accessibility, why I'm still in it.
Didn't know where it was going next. Thought you'd stick me with that. So yeah, I had a little different route, but I have to say part of that process for me is I have two experiences, and I've been able to actions to things that that have continued to carry me through, actually started me into the field. And one was when you said it made you cry, made me cry, right? It means so much, right, to see this opportunity for people. When Sean, you said, you know, that people think it's their fault that they can't, I get so angry. And so I didn't like hit anybody here.
You're
but,
Canadian.
yeah. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, I was, I needed to do a career change, and I was the operations and technical director for a Swiss-based company that was the robotics, lab robotics company. So I needed to do a career change. So I took a while doing the what color's your parachute approach, which is, I don't even know where that title comes from, but the idea is do what you love and the money will follow, or do what you love and the opportunities will follow. So it took a while, but I knew I wanted to marry my technology interests and background with my human interests and background and caring, right? Because they're always felt so disparate, right? And I'm not allowed to show that I'm, you know, feeling remorse or crying or something because of a situation because I'm a guy, right? So I had, you know, I have to balance these things out inside myself. So I think it was, so I ran into a couple of situations where people were using technology, assistive technology. And it's just because I'm always curious, and especially around technology. I said, so, you know, tell me about this, right? And I found myself increasingly getting excited about it, right? I thought, oh, wait a minute. Let me take this 2 years of career change process and you know, distill it down right now. So yeah, assistive technology was the field that I identified then, but I felt the best way to apply it is as an occupational therapist. So I went back to school and got a master's in occupational therapy, which opened up a whole bunch of stuff. Prior to doing that, I didn't actively engage with anybody with disabilities, as far as I know. But I did know that I also grew up in a way of not actively engaging with people from other races, right? But as I got chance, including in this work, I felt I'm learning so much, you know, so many things that I'm a little concerned about, they're not concerns anymore, right? You know, that's how you find out that it's okay to be around disabilities, right? It's okay to even make some mistakes, you know, it's okay to, and it's a big way to learn. So it was around kind of my advocacy approach to things, and I figured I needed to learn and identify more. I felt like kind of it was, if you want to put groups in of marginalized groups or whatever, that's the group I knew nothing about. So, you know, let's find out more about it. So yes, assistive technology, first work with people with significant developmental disabilities. And I felt like, but work is so important. Occupational therapists also do activities of daily living with bored me to tears. But very important. But I was interested in how do you make the situation to where a person with disabilities has the same opportunities to work, right? And doing it with folks with severe developmental disabilities, you can have the idea, then you have to go through how to do it, you know, develop assessments, you know, how to get folks on computers that have never touched a computer before. And then you have all this inherent capability that nobody knows about unless the person has the opportunity. So those are the kinds of things that, you know, kind of get me going. As an OT, I like community work, took me through, and in a lot of ways, I feel like assistive technology, which is tremendously engaged with professionally, there came a point where you needed to branch that into accessibility because that was a field that was starting to develop, right? And we all know what accessibility is, or at least our parts, right? So, and it was actually at one of those transition, CSUN, is Southern, whatever. It's a big assistive technology. Yeah. In Southern California, in LA area usually. So went there, and it was transitioning at that point. Accessibility, the word was being used more in that, and that's where I met my eventual wife by chance. So we've been able to keep the accessibility thing going. She lost her sight. That wasn't my fault. But not too long before we met. So she was actually just getting into accessibility, and we've just had the opportunity to keep growing it and growing it. Me bringing in certain interest and skills and her bringing in, and I wouldn't be able to do anything without her, quite honestly, and her engagement. So that's the origin. Does that make sense? But no, I'm old and disabled.
There's 3 of us left, so we have about 7 or 8 minutes each.
I took 15.
I'll be short. So my background was kind of similar to yours, I think. At my first job, I was like in web content management, and some I think somebody was like transferring some of their duties over to me, and they were like, "Hey, make sure when you're uploading all the PDFs, make sure they're accessible." And I was like, "What?" I'm like, what does that mean? I was like, So I just started so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna Google what this means. And I was like, oh, okay, documents need to make tag PDFs to make them accessible. And then I was like, if documents aren't accessible, what else is not accessible? So it turns out everything. And then I was like, oh no, I'm entering a rabbit hole. So I was like, then I had to go back and be like, okay, what can I do? What are some of the next steps I can take? How can I actually make some tangible effects? So that was my journey into accessibility. But I think there's a lot of background stuff that, has always pulled me towards communal accessibility, those kinds of work. I think it started with my grandpa. He's from India, and he used to come visit for 6 months. And he was not exposed to technology at all. So I don't know, one day randomly my grandpa was like, hey, I want to learn how to use the computer. I see you on it all the time. What do you do? I want to know I want to get into that world. So it's I used to teach my grandpa to use the computer, and it's it was different because it was the communication aspect of it. So I had to speak in a language that was plainer, and it's not just oh, click on the icon, go there, and it was just I was like, I need to backtrack. I actually need to learn how to communicate this. So I think there's a lot of those aspects that kind of transitioned into accessibility work, community work, the stuff I was talking about with the farmers market. That's the work I do outside of my corporate job. With my corporate job, I'm lucky I'm also in accessibility, but it's the outside stuff, the nonprofit stuff I do is like integrating myself into the community and like trying to work on like working with people like grassroots level kind of stuff. So like that's been super important to me. And like anything, any hobby that I attain, I kind of want to like be like, oh, how do we make this more accessible? So like I've been getting into the foodie part. So I was like thinking about that. And then there's also like I've been getting into running. So I was like, how do we like I've just like trying to think about like, you know, how can sports be more accessible? How can this be more accessible? So it's like I just try to like think of it that way, but like yeah, it's yeah, that's basically how I kind of got into the space. But I feel like I've kind of always been in it like in the background. Like I but like there wasn't like a name to it, but like now I can, you know, there's like accessibility community, there's um you know, certification. So like I tried to do that. I after after my first job, I was like, let me get my master's in assistive technology and human services so that I can like, you know, learn a little bit more and
One of the two programs out
Yeah.
there. For assistive technology.
yeah.
Was it the California one or
Yeah,
the Illinois
CSUN one. I was like, let me put myself in there. But and I think I noticed like evolution in how I wanted to approach accessibility the more I learned about it. So I started off in like more of like a charity model. Like myself, my mindset was like charity model. Let me help the underserved. But now it's more like, no, let's like let's help people be independent. Like how to, like the way you were saying, like talking about how accessibility is independence. It's like, and I was thinking about that. Access to technology is independence. Like there's like, it opens a lot of doors, like being able to like have that independence, being able to use technology to fulfill that independence. So it's like, let's kind of move beyond like myself, my evolution is like moving from the charity model to like the social model to like, you know, just it just continues. Like I'm hoping I it I don't know if there's like a model, but like cultural model, like can we like make it part of our lifestyle kind
Mhm.
of thing?
I think that the next step in that is the we're better with you
Yeah.
than, you know, you make us stronger. And with that, I'll hand it off to Mark because you make us stronger.
All right. Can you hear me? I have enjoyed hearing the origin stories, and it really kind of makes me think back, you know, on how my career has evolved and things. But one thing, you know, that comes to mind, it seems like, you know, we all kind of inherently want to be superheroes and save the world. And that's I should have added that that's actually something that I've incorporated at Nelnet a long time ago. Our community of practice is called the Accessibility Jedi Council. And I'm a big Star Wars geek, as you can probably see. My background has the Death Star and Darth Vader.
I wanted to
in
make
there.
sure you knew it was operational. It's right
Yeah.
above your head.
Yes, yes. I have the off switch though, so I'm okay. But yeah, so yeah. But yeah, I think, you know, for me, you know, I got started, you know, and certainly in accessibility, you know, when I was born, because I was born with SMA, so I've been dealing with technology challenges all my life. but like everybody else, it wasn't taught in college. I went to a computer science degree. I could do databases. I could build websites, but zero classes on accessibility. So I got in the workforce. I was a full stack developer. I could do a lot of different things, and I enjoyed it. I really did. I've always been kind of a techie or a logical thinking kind of guy. So, but eventually, I gravitated toward the people side of things, the front end side, and then that's something that I enjoyed, the human aspect. How can I make things better for our customers? And then I thought, oh, if I'm going to be a good front end dev, how do I make the web pages more accessible to everybody so that they can use it? And I just started reading and got into that. I taught my boss and this, I thought this WebAIM website, this organization looks cool. Can I go to training there? And they said, oh yeah, sure, why not? And so I got to talk to Derek Smith, and it really it blossomed from there for me. Eventually, I got to convince my bosses into building a program, funding it, where I was doing more than just development, and more dedicated to accessibility. And that's kind of where things grew from there. So it wasn't just a natural thing for me either, but it kind of was, a need then. And we pointed it out. Certainly our organization needed it. They just didn't know they did really. And we hadn't been sued yet. And then, later on, student loan industry has gotten a bit more hot button issue. So it certainly helped with my advocacy because they knew, we don't want to be the bad guy here. So that helped too with just maybe some things were good timing. That's that. I believe in that as well. Sometimes you just have to be in the right place at the right time sometimes to build things, and you keep asking and pushing the right buttons. Eventually something happens. And I really believe that, not everything I've asked for, certainly not, probably not a tenth of the things I've asked for, I have been granted, but the ones that have, it's helped us grow over the years, and we've added staff, we've added, it's more than just my internal team at Nelnet. We have a diversified crew that help consult for other people. No, and that's where Dave is at, and Robin, and I think some other folks that you may have met here today, or yesterday at the conference at Nelnet. So very proud of how things have evolved. I have no idea where my career will go from here. But I know this is the path that was meant for me, and I just hope I can provide value to colleagues like yourself, and certainly more for people out in the world, just like me or you, just to make things better, like you said. So that's been my story.
Yeah, I don't think you have to hope that you're adding value. You just have to be aware of how much value you're adding. I did meet some of your colleagues in the vendor room downstairs. So we were laughing about accessibility as a service, like SaaS, software as a service. You're in the ass business. Accessibility as a service. We thought that was
Yes,
pretty
yes.
humorous.
Yes, we
Wait,
got-
let me unmute you.
Yeah, we have all the good technology buzzwords now. So, but as long as if it catches somebody's attention, some organization, catches on, that it's all worth it. So, and then that's again, we're proud of Dave and involving in all the folks there and how they've been able to help teach and train folks and even acquire business, you know, from places that should have been accessible, but they just needed, you know, needed support. So we've been able to build on our own internal knowledge and now we're supporting other groups. And I think that's really cool. I would encourage others to think that way. You know, you can do it too. You don't have to just be your own internal environment. You can think bigger and there is a need. It's out there. So we just have to go find it and encourage folks to reach out.
Thank you. That's awesome. My origin story is kind of strange. And just like what you said, this work is so great because it's so rewarding and yet so noble. And you know, you make lives better, and it's just you can feed that nerdy side of you and all that tech stuff, and there's just so many good people in it. I love all the passion and motivation and all the great people in this profession. So it's really such a wonderful field, and it seems to be like exploding. I got my degree in American Sign Language and interpreting, and so it's kind of a strange. And I just kind of fell into that because I was at a college, I was at the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque, where they had a great program. It was the first college in the United States to accept ASL as a foreign language for foreign language credit. It was a great program. I got my bachelor's degree. I started working as an interpreter. My first job was in New Mexico on the Indian reservation, which was fascinating. And this little tiny elementary school, I was the whole deaf program. But then I moved up to Portland and I worked in high schools and middle schools. And eventually I moved back to Austin in the mid-90s and got a job working right away at the Austin Community College as an interpreter and became a math specialist. And but that work was hourly, it wasn't salaried. It paid okay, but I started tutoring some deaf students, and they offered me a position with each of our campuses has a tutoring lab, and they needed someone to work on accessibility and accommodations. And so I took a position, and there was a Braille printer in the corner of my office, and I, like her, I just Googled that shit and and started learning, and you know, started doing a test here and a test there very badly. Hey there. And really soon it became apparent that there was this huge need that nobody had really identified, because every semester I was increasing my output by like 2,000, 3,000%. It was going, I went from like just doing a test here or there to like my fourth semester, I think I did like 3,000 pages of Braille in one semester. And my supervisors were getting angry because they're like, this is like just a side gig, you know, you really need to be in the tutoring labs and helping us with. And so I knew it was such great work, and it was so important, and I really loved it, and I was good at it. And so I built a department, and I got them to fund the department, and we opened the alt text and media department, and just never looked back. So I've been doing it for almost a decade now, just the alt text and media, the accessible documents. And I just, yeah, I think it's noble work, and it's so important. And yeah, and I was diagnosed with ADHD. I finally took an evaluation, and accepted that, you know, my challenges with distractibility and hyperfocus are, you know, they're not just quirky things. They're they're superpowers and their disabilities. And I couldn't do my work without my hyperfocus, but I sometimes can't do my work because of my distractibility. So, and I'm still kind of coming to terms with that. There's different facets of all of our journeys. I don't think you can separate like work and life. You know, for a long time there was always this leave your personality at the door, and I think that's the wrong approach. I think our personality, you know, you can't leave it at the door. You're going to bring your biases and your life into your work, and you have to be open to criticism and know your weaknesses and know the strengths on your team, so you can pass things back and forth to meet your strengths and your talents. So I think that's really important. I love bringing that humanness, you know, into this work, because I think people who are ableist and discriminatory and do things that exclude people, they just haven't met a human that, you know, that has a disability. And it's such a shock to some people. You know, I don't think of them as blind. They're just a person. Oh, of course, they're all people. You know, they are you, they are me, they are, you know, there's no difference. And so that's my origin story. And I think we're done. Yes.
Just something that's been really helpful for me. And again, I wanted to share something very quickly. It's been really helpful for me. Aside from this, it's been awesome to hear people's
What a
origin
great
story.
day.
Thank you so much. Especially working in a couple of projects ago and continue to work in the area, we already know, at least from our perspective in Aquinnah and Pina, that there's no such thing as total accessibility, right? But the other thing is, there's like, if you're not getting to address it at all, how do you get from starting to address it to somewhere in between where it's going to happen, right? We spent so much time like getting frustrated, you know, why can't we get further? Why can't we, you know, why can't it happen more on these projects? Why can't I change council, you know, or get 3 more people on this, you know, start including captioning, always frustrated. Then work and go to work in this area where, as I think I'd mentioned, the infrastructure is old. The resources are limited. It's a big area and people don't know as much about things. But let's take that no judgment approach here. So the approach is inform people, work with people so you can get whatever accessibility you can get going. And in fact, we're doing a campaign called We're Accessibility Minded, right? People learn you don't have to have a ramp into your 200-year-old bed and breakfast, but there are so many things you can do, right? And so anyway, just like take that approach. What can we do and what can we do that includes everybody else, right? And so that was just, I had to share that. Thank you.
That reminds me of the quote. Oh, sorry. That reminds me of the quote by Arthur Ashe. He said, "Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can." So,
What a great note to end on. Thank you, Mark. It was great having you here. unmute.
Likewise, thank you, everyone. Really enjoyed chatting today. This is a lot of fun.
Couldn't think of a better way to spend 2 hours. That was awesome. I think we're over time, so we will sign off.
And you were an awesome facilitator.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind.